Welcome to Hey, what's going on, y'all? Welcome to the Art Stories. I am your guest host, Sharif D King, filling in for Simone Muschett, the resilient one. She is the ultimate social worker. She's a model. She is a host. She is the person you need to speak to about your story. Aside from social work, she is saving lives one day at a time, just helping kids, helping youth, just helping people operate out of their resilience. And so I welcome her today to tell her story like none other. Simone, how you doing?
I am doing well. It is a pleasure to have you in my seat and filling my shoes. It couldn't be anyone else better
Yeah,
to fill those shoes. Thank
yeah.
you.
And you know what? You never know what it's like to sit in somebody else's seat. But I want to ask you, what is it like to be on the other side of your seat? Like, is it like looking at yourself? How do you look at yourself now that you're on the other side?
I'm actually nervous, believe it or not. I didn't think I would be this way, but it's when you're a therapist or a social worker, a lot of times you get so used to listening to other people talk about themselves and their stories that you don't really stop to reflect about your own story because people don't, you would think people ask, but people don't necessarily ask because they're usually consumed with what they're going through. So this is definitely different, but I'm open because I want to be here. And I think that I have a professional, resilient story that would bless people. I mean, I have many resilient stories, but I feel like this was most important to me because it's the most recent experience that I had. And I wanted to be able to connect with my listeners on this level since it's so fresh.
Right. And you provide so many resources to people. I want to say, who helps the social worker? Who helps the therapist? Where do you go?
That's real. That's real. We don't go to anyone. I mean, I'm in therapy now. I'm grateful for that. And it's been helping me the last 2 months. But now that I think about it, I had to do that because a lot of people don't really understand. When you're a therapist, you see the world, not just your job, but you see the world in a different lens. And people that are not in therapy don't see the world that way. So sometimes they just don't understand. They genuinely just don't understand and can't imagine what your experience is. So it's just easier to kind of like keep it to yourself.
So with that, do you share your entire story when you're in therapy? When you're talking to people, is it like, you know what? I can work through this. I can get myself through this. I'm resilient. I just need you to hear me out. What is the process like when, unraveling and working through stuff?
Working through my own things or
Right.
working through
Right.
when it's working through my own things, I think it's for me, my spirituality is what keeps me grounded. That's the only thing I can lean on because when you think about if you don't have a support system of physical people that are like-minded to pull you up and you're single, you don't have no family, you have no children. I think that leaning on faith is the only thing you can lean on because if you don't lean on faith, then what? Then it's like, why am I here? Why am I putting up with this? Why am I dealing or enduring all these things? But if you believe in a higher purpose, then that's the reason to keep going and to lean on. So I definitely will have moments where I stop and talk to God, be like, why am I here? What is it that you want me to accomplish in this position? Lord, why you put me in this circumstance? What is
Mhm.
it that you want me to do? And I think sometimes we don't really know how to do that in a moment. Just be like, all right, God, let me pull you to the side. What is this about?
Yeah. Yeah.
Let me know what I need to do. A lot of times, I think even social workers, anybody that's in a service profession, we tend to want to do things in our own strength and get frustrated with ourselves when we're not able to accomplish that.
Yeah.
And I've learned throughout the years that I can't always do things in my own strength. I need God's strength. So when I feel that in the moment, I might need to go to the bathroom, excuse myself, but I'm gonna have one-on-one with Jesus right quick
Mhm.
because he needs to step in. I can't do this right now. He needs to step in. That's what really like keeps me.
Wow. Now, you've talked about not having family, not having any kids. Has that become a trauma for you? Is that something that you have been working through over the years, even though you are helping others?
Think that that's traumatic. For me, personally, it doesn't bother me. It bothers people around me. People around me feel like, oh, you are so good with kids, you should be a mom. Oh, you're so this, you should do this. Oh, like you're so pretty, you're so this. Where's your husband at? And it's just like, what does that mean? What do you really mean by that? I think it confuses other people because they've been so conditioned to what a certain lifestyle is supposed to look like when you're growing up and you're aging and adulting. They believe that, oh, this is what you're supposed to do. And anything that looks outside of their box that they were conditioned to believe is strange to them. And that's just mostly like older ladies, my mom, when am I gonna be a grandma? Like those type of things. But when I interact with people on a day-to-day basis, that doesn't really come up. My students always ask me, Miss, what's your husband or how many kids you got? I'll be like, I got a million children. You are all my children, literally. And that's how I see it because I do fill in the gap for a lot of parents, especially dads or moms for whatever reason. And it matters to that kid. And that's what fills me like that I'm able to fill in the gap and reach them. And they know like I'll be their mentor. It feels good to have students that I taught years ago that still reach out to me till this day. The fact that they still follow me and want to communicate, that speaks volumes. And that's the reason why like I do what I do.
When is the first time you became a mentor? Do you remember that time when you first started to mentor someone and what that was like and how you got to this point?
I think I was always a mentor at heart. So when I was a teenager, I used to babysit like all my mom's friends' kids. So I was always the oldest. They would go out, have their night, and I'm watching all the young ones. And there was never any incident. They would love being there. They would love hanging out with me. There was like one friend that would always leave her daughter like every other weekend with me, and I would do her hair. We would bond to the point that she would help me grade papers when I was a teacher as she grew up. And now she's about to go to college and she wants to pursue education. And that like filled me because it was like I didn't think she was paying attention to me, but I remember she did used to help me grade my tests and things like that. And I would say that's the first child, I guess I mentored that was a family friend, but I consider her like that's my little sister, that's my baby. That's how I treat all my kids as if they were mine. Even when their parents are involved, I'd be like, I'm the school mommy and you the home mommy. And they'd be like, Yep, that's right.
That's pretty dope. Now, when you created the art stories, you have resilience on your heart and on your mind. When is the first time you've run into resilience within yourself that you could look in the mirror and say, I'm resilient?
Woo! That's a loaded question because I think that I've always been resilient, but when I admitted it to myself, it's different. I think my first time of recognizing that I'm resilient was after recognizing and realizing, oh, you were molested in first grade, sis. That's a violation, regardless of the circumstances, who it was, where it was, when it happened, don't matter. It's still a violation. And for you to be who you are now, you already overcome the odds. Now, when I started to realize or recognize that I was resilient, I think it was first recognizing it in my students, starting my nonprofit, wanting, it was more of like, to be honest, I felt like I was a lost cause. And I just wanted to help other kids not be like me.
Sure.
In the process of that and hearing their trauma stories throughout the years, a lot of them went through similar things that I went through. And in me sharing it with them and them pouring back into me, it started to help me to see like, oh, okay, you are resilient. But I think maybe last year, after getting into modeling, trying something new, after just seeing where I've been as a social worker, school social worker, and just assessing the impact that I've made, and like, yo, sis, you still here. And I talked to God about this. It's just like, yo, you are still here. He keeps me like there's things when I hear other people talk, I think that's what it is that helps me be resilient or recognize my resilience. When I hear other testimonies and I hear how people struggle to overcome what they've been through or have gone through something similar, but they didn't bounce back the way I was able to bounce back. And it made me realize, like, oh, that's the majority. I'm actually, the anomaly. And it's like, oh,
Unicorn.
I'm resilient. I'm so resilient. Yes. So that's really what it was for me. Like, okay, I'm listening to enough stories to recognize that I am different because I'm not around people all the time. So I've accomplished a lot, but I don't really have people around me like kissing my butt or telling me things to gas me up. Nobody is doing that. Nobody is even caring about what someone is doing in my specific world. But when I meet new people and they see, they may bring it up. And so just hearing the different testimonies of people that I admire, like someone like you, I admire you. When I heard your testimony, I'm like, what?
Yeah, yeah.
Well, you think you know somebody until
It rolls out. Wow. I want to speak a little bit about how you were able to tell your story. It's one thing to go through something, look it in the mirror, or look yourself in your own eye and say, hey, I'm going to get through this. I'm going to get through this. I'm going to be this person. But what were the things that you put in your back pocket that help you to, one, tell your story, but to also live in that light for others?
what helped me to tell my story? My kids. I think that older folks don't want to share their story because maybe it's painful to them still, or maybe they're worried that you're going to copy them and go in their footsteps. But when I was an educator, what I noticed that not sharing my story and my experience didn't allow my students to have some type of a blueprint, roadmap, guide, some type of idea of how to solve their own issues. And when you talk about something like molestation, which is more common than it should be, and you bring that up in a classroom setting and make it safe for children to talk about, and seeing the impact of just saying your experience and how it resonates with people, it's different. I remember I went to a youth camp my very first year, 5 years ago. I did my first 2017. That's 5 years ago, right? Maybe a little more.
Or more.
But in 2017 is when I started Resilient Young Minds. And so I did the first Rhyme camp in fall 2018. And there was a young lady that was a student in my school. All the kids went to the school I worked at because that's how I recruited them. And we went there, and I seen this girl for 2, 3 years, like in school, high school, whatever. They go to the camp, and she was just like, my trauma is my brother from my dad's side. He forced me to basically give him a fellatio at 7 years old. That's why I don't like boys, pretty much. It's like, wow, well, I could only respect your decision.
Wow.
But to see this as a young lady I see every day, all the time, and she felt compelled to join this program. I didn't even know her story until she got to the woods, all the way to the mountaintop, and we have this workshop, and she shares that with me. That was the beginning of like, nah, this is necessary. I have to keep going. Like, I have to keep going. This is not about me. God put me in this position to serve others. This is my testimony to serve others, to show people how to get to Him. I don't care if it's in a school. I don't care if it's a nonprofit. I don't care if I'm on the street. If you ask me, how did Simone overcome? I'm going to constantly say, Jesus saved me, because that's just what my truth is. Not because I'm forcing it on you, but that's what my truth is. And God helped me build this ministry that allows me to touch young people, boys and girls alike.
Yeah. Who are some of the people that you look up to that has helped you, has inspired you, has motivated you to build this ministry, to build this platform, and to trust God with it?
Who do I look up to? That's a hard question. Who do I look? Well, regularly I look up to Michelle Obama. I always say that she's poised, she's great. She will put you in your place and still keep it cute. I wish I had it together like that. I aspire to have it together like that. Um, I also say my mentor Bert really like helped me because he was the first person that was supported the idea and the vision. You know, he was right there from the beginning. And I could say my mom supported me too. I mean, she was moms, West Indian moms, they have their thing. But when it came down to it, she was at every event. She was the chef. She was able to give what she had. And it filled her to support young people that were struggling in certain ways and be able to feed them and stuff like that. And that helped her find her ministry, which was cooking or catering and so on and so forth. So at the very beginning, those were the main people that really supported my vision. And of course, all the kids who nagged their parents to be a part of it, because that was it too. Like the students advocated for them to come to my camp. And that to me means the most because nowadays it's hard to engage young people. And for them to say, like, nah, I want to be with Miss Muschett. I want to go to Miss Muschett's event. I want to go to her stuff. That for me means
Everything.
everything.
Who does Simone have to be to wear all these different hats? I mean, you're an author, you show up for your parents, you show up for your friends, you are a social worker, a teacher. I mean, you wear so many different hats. You are the founder of a nonprofit, always doing something in the community, in the church heavily. Who does Simone have to be on the daily to show up as the person that she knows she can be?
To do those things well, I just had to show up as Simone. When I wasn't showing up as Simone, I wasn't doing all those things. I may have appeared to be busy to people on the outside, but I wasn't involved in all those things. I was kind of like a slave to my boss or the system or whatever the case may be. But all the things that you've mentioned were like, one, I love to write. My first book, I put it out years after I wrote it. I wrote it my first 2 years teaching. I literally did. It was my journal, but I didn't put it out till COVID because I had time in COVID. But I've always enjoyed writing. I love to write. That was something that was always a part of me. But I actually wanted to be an author when I grew up, but I never actually met authors or were around people. Now my mentor Bert had a best-selling book and he did an author workshop like 2017 or something like that. And he wanted, I'm the mentee. So he was like, come help, do check in. Da, da, da. I'm like, I got you, no problem. But it blessed me because this was a ticketed event and I was able to work the event. But in that, I was able to pick up so many gems and learn how you publish a book, the different ways you can publish, and so on and so forth. And that stayed with me, and that's what motivated me to write my book. And then, you once you get one book out there, it's easy to get the to keep it going at that point. When it comes to modeling's so funny because it's like I did it to help myself overcome an experience at work. I want to say like work stressed me out to the point that I neglected to self-care. And then I was not able to look in the mirror and recognize myself. I went from weighing 150 pounds to now weighing 110 pounds. And in that not being able to recognize myself, on top of that, I have Caribbean family members making comments about my body. Then I have people at work now making comments, and none of the comments are you okay? I notice a change. do you need support? That's never the comments. The comments is like, oh girl, you losing too much weight. You need to eat. Oh my God, you so maga. When you want, and then when it's a family member, they want to squeeze you, they want to poke at your body, and they don't have no idea that I have no appetite. I'm so depressed and in such a dark place. And because I'm supposed to be quiet, go to work, get this money, and pay bills, nobody cares about what toll it could be taken on me mentally, emotionally, or physically. So because of that, I was going into a new depressed place. Before it was like, this job is a lot. Now I'm starting to hate myself because I don't like the way I look. And I'm like, you know what, girl, you need to let's do a photo shoot so you could see yourself in a more positive light and love your new body. That was what my mind was telling me. This is your new body and you're gonna love it. Just take some pictures. And I did. And my dad was like, you've always been photogenic, which is true. I was always I wouldn't say I was into modeling, but I was always into the creative space. I love to dance, act, sing. And I just never thought I was pretty enough. I never thought that I would be worthy enough because that's what I was told growing up. And I don't think that my parents or my mom specifically was trying to put me down. I felt like she was, in her mind, she was trying to protect me to not go after something that you're going to be rejected and go to something a little more safe where your brains is going to carry you and that's enough. And so as a result of that, I never tried to. I just decided to be a school nurse. School's gonna help me escape my circumstances. But in this instance, my dad said, send it, see what they say. I wasn't trying to, but I was like, I respect it. Just to prove you wrong, Dad, I'ma send it to an agency. And lo and behold, he proved me wrong. And I just been getting calls ever since, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's so crazy because entering the modeling space, I recognize that one is not as mean as people or the media likes to make it sound. And then two, there's legitimate broken people in these spaces where I can honestly say I've had heartfelt conversations that I would have never even thought I would have. Like, I would have never thought Simone would be the person right before we gonna rip a runway. Like, oh guys, let's pray. Oh, you're a man and you're dressed in heels. I don't care. Come in this circle. God still loves you. We're gonna pray together.
Yeah.
And then after, when we kill it, everyone posts and like, yo, the best part is we even prayed before we walked.
Yeah.
Nobody said my name, but I was there. Y'all was there. We know who prayed,
Yeah.
but it's not the point. God got the glory at the end of the day. And they started to help me realize, like, you are who you are, regardless of what space you're in. But the issue is the space that I was currently in didn't appreciate who I was. And because of that, I thought something was wrong with me. And it wasn't until I went into a different space where I was able to recognize, like, oh, it's not me. These people over here just don't appreciate me.
Right,
But the
right.
people over here, they do. And that kind of started like my motivation to be like, all right, I need to focus on Ron. Because I almost gave up on my own nonprofit because I was so overwhelmed with work. I just felt like I didn't have time for it. But that like, yo, you have your own ministry and you put your own ministry to the side to worry about a boss. And then that is like killing you in a sense.
You're giving me so much. It's so loaded. It's so loaded. I want to go back to when you talked about depression. How
Mm,
did you overcome depression? Because so many people don't even know that they're depressed. They
mhm,
are checking off the box that, hey, this is just how it feels when you're working through a thing, but they don't recognize the symptoms of depression. They don't know how to get through depression. And then the mindset, the
mm,
way you have to work through this to get to the other side so that you can be resilient
mhm.
is a whole process. I want you to speak to that.
There's a difference between being depressed and having depression. And that's something that a lot of people confuse. Being depressed, I lost a family member. I'm sad. That's normal. um, Depression is a clinical diagnosis that a psychiatrist has to give you. I was clinically diagnosed in 2018 with major depression and borderline personality disorder. So the short answer to your question, I still live with it. It's not like I overcame it and it went away and it disappeared, because I have a clinical diagnosis. Now, when you just are depressed because there's a moment in your life that is difficult, if you do the things, seek counseling, find someone, do things that you enjoy, like it's easier to overcome that experience if you're seeking to overcome it. And I also do assessments. So if you are sad or, depressed for more than 2 weeks, then it's a thing. But if this sadness doesn't go more than 2 consecutive weeks, then it's not like depression at all. It's just what it is. You're just a little sad. You're going through something. You could go through life and be, sad. That's normal. Now, depression is when you wake up and you just don't know why you sad. I woke up today and I'm not feeling it. And it can show up in different ways. This year specifically, somatic symptoms have been a big thing that I noticed in myself, which means like if you are unhappy or depressed about where you work, like how I would have stomach aches in the morning when I wake up. And that would drive me insane because on Sunday I woke up fine. But then Monday is the worst. My stomach is hurting, and so I have to change my morning routine. I have to wake up between 3 and 4 a.m. every morning. I do my devotional, listen to my worship music, make sure I talk to God and ask him to protect me, keep me, that. And then I get to my day and do the work that I want to do first. So if I'll do my nonprofit work at 6 a.m., from 6 a.m. to 7:30, that's my sacred time to Starbucks, and that's what I'm doing I try to do the things that I care about first early in the morning. And then I go to work because work drains me. And by the time I get off work, I just want to come home and go to sleep. So if I rely on doing something after work, it may not get done. And that adds to my depression. So you also have to figure out what triggers your sadness. Why are you sad? You have to start paying attention to who you are, listen to yourself, listen to your body, listen to your mind, and think about what it is that you want. And I think I've learned personally over the last 2, 3 years, like I've been living my life as a people pleaser, like bad. To the point that I was doing it so innately that I didn't realize that I was constantly doing things that I never really wanted to do.
Yeah.
And I was around people that I never wanted to do. And it wasn't until honestly when I started leading the singles ministry that it stood out, because now I'm a leader in a space and I want to make sure I'm living out what I'm saying to people. That's important to me, to practice what you preach. I know other people it's not that important, but to me, it was important to practice what I preach. And I needed to really start listening to who I am and the more spiritual I became, the more people started to disappear, because now I generally don't have the desire to do certain things or be in certain places. And the people that I was associating with, when I'd be like, oh, come with me to church or come with me to this event, they were like, nah, I don't want to do, I'm not into that. But yet you will call me to come with you to the bar. You will call me to go with you to the club. And I won't say dumb, but my naive self will go and do it because I wanted friends so bad. I wanted to feel love so bad. I wanted attention so bad. So I would do that and not realizing that that would add to my sadness, because once you get that high, it's like a drug. Once you get that high and then the high is down, you crash. Because after I done, embarrassing myself mentally and did something I didn't really care to do just to get your attention, and then you leave me, or you go about your day and I go back home by myself, I don't feel good. So now that I just crashed and I didn't like that feeling. And so now I lean into that. I lean into like, oh, you're not into that? Okay, that's cool, no problem. When people invite me to places, oh no, I'm sorry, I'm not into that. Like, for example, like there's this controversy. I'm going on a tangent, but there's a controversy about like Christian or kingdom minded folks liking Beyonce all these people. And I will honestly say the last Beyonce album I've had in my possession is Lemonade. That was the last time, right? So when I hear my other, sisters or whatever, they're like, "Oh, you going?" No, I'm not. Like, to me, it's a no-brainer. I don't judge them, but to me, it's a no-brainer. But to them, they're maybe at a different place. So it is what it is. But that's how my mindset is, not even to put down anybody else. It's just, this is where I'm at. And I don't want to listen to, because if I listen to that, it's gonna ignite a thing in me that I don't want to ignite. I don't want to be about that thought life. I've been there, done that. It's not fun. And it don't help me. And I honestly never even liked it when I was there. I was doing it for attention. And look, I still ain't married, ain't got no kids. So clearly it wasn't working for me. So now, even though my kingdom-minded sis may be like, "Oh, let's go. I do love you, and you will enjoy. Have fun, and I hope you have a good
Do
time.
you feel like just the music was altered for you to get to this place? Do you feel like there was so many different things that went into who you have become now, or was it just the music that led you down that path to say, "Hey, I'm actually a people pleaser. I actually don't like these things, and these things are attached to some of the stuff I used to like."
The problem was, I love music in general. Music was my escape. I look at lyrics. To be honest, when I was a kid, I used to love gospel music, but not really understand the significance of gospel music. I'm just listening to it as music. So I've always loved music. I play piano. A lot of people don't even know that. So I was
I gotta
already,
hear you on some keys too.
huh?
I gotta hear you on some keys one time.
Not now, but you see
No,
my
no, no.
keyboard is in the back there somewhere. But I used to, yeah, I went to middle school for keyboards and all this stuff. It was a lot. But I always loved music. Music is one of my coping skills. So now, but I like to listen to lyrics, and I didn't personally care about beats. And I know that's something that people are into, like, "Oh, no, I don't care about the words, I just like the beat." And I'm like, "Nah, because I'm not dancing to nothing." Well, that was just always me. It wasn't. So now when I became saved and I started to learn about Christian artists, and that they were artists that spoke about real life from a kingdom-minded lens, and it didn't have cussing, and it didn't have all this other extra in it, I loved it. And I just started engulfing myself in it. And there were so many genres. There's Christian R&B, there's Christian hip hop, there's all of these different genres of Christian music. I personally felt like I don't really need to listen to Beyonce no more. I could listen to Corinne Hawthorne if I want that type of energy, or Akira Sure. Like, there's so many dope Christian artists that can give you that same vibe, but it don't have to be like tainted, if that's the word.
You spoke a lot about overcoming things and the things that you had to alter. Um, and I'm wondering, did your resilience, do you deem your resilience as the medicine to get you through your depression and all the things that you went through?
Mm. I feel like the medicine is God's favor, my relationship with God. And because of that medicine, I am resilient.
I love it. I love it. I love it. Let's dive into how being saved has helped you become the woman that you are today.
How being saved helped me to be the woman I am today. It helped me to accept me for me. How, like, the word says, "You're fearfully and wonderfully made," and all this stuff. I think sometimes that's hard, even in the Christian space. Like, there's always somebody trying to tell you to be something else. And I think what I loved about my church, shout out Church City, USA, Jamaica, Queens, Pastor Rich, um, the focus is always teaching you how to have your own relationship with God. Like, my pastor is big on read the word for yourself. Don't trust me. Read it for yourself. Get to know him for yourself. Don't rely on my praise. I'll pray for you, but you should pray for yourself. Like, he's very big on that. And I never had that growing up. I've been in churches and none of them was like that. And so as a full-fledged adult, learning the things that I learned, I didn't realize how much, like, literally it's a relationship. So even when I'm in a real life relationship, I have that personality. Like, I'm getting to know the person that I'm talking to, and I want to make them happy. I want to, like, it becomes my desire. Their desires become my desires. And that's really what happened with my relationship with God innately. Like, people be like, oh, I can't do this, I can't be celibate, I can't do that. And I'm like, you're going way too far. Just take step one, accept him in your heart, start to get to know him. And slowly these things start to change, because as I'm understanding his word and why things should be the way that they are, I'm like, wow, that makes so much sense. This is why God says what he says.
Yeah.
Can you see me? I'm sorry. Somebody called me and my phone. Oh, there it goes.
Yeah.
I was like, you disappeared. But that's really what helped me to get there. It's a personal desire, and you just slowly lose interest in those things as you're reading the word and recognizing why that God doesn't want you in those spaces and doing those things.
Mm. You've overcome so many hurdles, so many obstacles. You've done so much. Um, and that's still not your professional trauma. We haven't even dived into that. So, how do you deal with what you've seen in your past, but moving forward into your professional life, into your professional world? How do you maximize the knowledge and wisdom that God has given you to operate in a professional lens?
Mm, 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 mm. I just started doing that like a year ago. I think it's hard. One of my colleagues, when my first 2 years working there, we had a prayer group, which I appreciated because I felt like I was still young in my Christianity. But at the time, I did this thing where, like, I used to just wear I want to call it power words, hoodies and shirts and stuff that would just say radical thing. Like, I'll have this hoodie just be like Jesus. Or, when it was COVID, my church had this slogan, um, that Christ is our identity, or in the midst of a crisis, we are focused on who Christ is. That's our little slogan. So we had a shirt that said that, and people at work would be like, hey, we get that, we get that. Oh, that makes sense. Conversations, and I recognized that they were believers at the job. And so we decided, they said they used to have one back in the day, but it had stopped. So at this point, they decided, let's bring back the prayer, the morning prayer. Let's pray over the school and all that stuff in the morning. And I was with it. Heavy, heavy, heavy. That really helped in the beginning, because in the beginning, I was seeing things that I don't even want to talk about, because I was just so, like, disgusted that people send their children to a place where the things that I saw was happening. But then as time progressed and we started coming back to the building, I think the fear, the stress, and the anxiety of what's going to happen to me being in person now, people carrying germs. And a lot of people didn't know how to voice that and just be honest, right? Vulnerability is something that I promote the heavy in rhyme, and I model it. I will say a vulnerable thing. I will tell you, yo, I was molested, or this is what happened to me. I don't care if you're a man, woman, child. If it's relevant to what we're talking about, I'll bring it up, because I want you to know that I'm a human being, and I try my best to promote that wherever I go and whatever I do. And this role, I think the people that were there, they didn't know how to do that, and they were resistant. They didn't want to, because imagine you work at a school for 1, 2, 3, 20 years, right? And you just see the same pattern. And then this little young girl comes in regardless of how legal I am and qualified. But to you, you just see this young girl come in, little thing, and she is wrangling everybody together, and you've been here all this time and you couldn't do that. So I had to learn and recognize that my light and what I do is a threat. It could be perceived as a threat to other people.
Don't move. Don't move. Don't. I want to stop you right there. How important, because we speak about mentors. Oh Lord. We speak about mentors so much. And life has shifted from, hey, I need this mentor, that mentor, this mentor, that now people are not calling others mentors. My peers don't look the same to me. In the workplace, someone who is senior and has paved the way for you as you walk through, how do you navigate people that are in places and spaces holding titles in high places that you want to get to, but necessarily don't have the wherewithal to know, oh, I need to get here. There's no blueprint, there's no strategy. Outside of God, there's no one telling you what it is because they're not quote unquote your mentor anymore. It has become a free for all. What do you do? In fact, when someone you've seen become a mentor to you in some way, shape, or form has now identified themselves as your competition.
Welcome to my life. How do I navigate that is the question.
I know it's loaded.
No, I'm not even trying to say the same thing over again. It's just, this is really what it is, because you're right. There is nothing that can prepare you for that. Because if someone went from mentor, that speaks to the relationship you have, the light you see them you see them as someone you look up to, that maybe inspires you, that maybe motivates you. They maybe even empowered you to do certain things. So for them to then turn around to now view you as competition is hurtful, because I'm not coming here to hurt you. I admire you. I want to help you. I'm following you. I'm following behind you. I believe in your vision and your mission, and I'm trying to do everything I can to make it come to fruition. And then you see me as a threat or a competition, that's insulting, I feel. And what I had to learn in my meditation and focusing on me, because I have to focus on me and realize, oh, okay, you allow this loyalty. You know what it is? I'm gonna tell you what it is, Sharif. I had to recognize that I was idealizing work. Work was an idol for me. And that's what I had to God, I heard you. I was staying at work till 8, 9 o'clock at night. Why? School end at 2:30. Why am I in the building till 8, 9 o'clock? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You know what I mean? And it's like, I'm dating people. You a man, would you appreciate your woman to be at work till 8 p.m. at night every day, and you know she get off at 3? Would
No.
you be no? So the people I was dating, it would cause an issue in the relationship. So now I'm like, oh, okay, I guess he's not that serious. So I'll have nothing to do outside my personal life. Even though I had a nonprofit, I was putting that on a burner. So I'm putting everything that I am or that God placed on my heart to do on the back burner to be at this job, because I didn't have anything else. Professionalism is all I had. I didn't have a close relationship with my family. I don't have a bestie from childhood that I grew up with. I don't have a college tribe that I reach out to them. Yes, I'm in Greek life and there are people that I'm cool with, but to say, oh, I feel comfortable that I have that knit group of support that I go to no matter what. Some people may feel hurt by that. I don't want to hurt anybody because maybe they see it differently. But if I have to reach out to you when there's an issue, to me, that's the type of support relationship I'm talking about. I'm talking about them people. I talk to you more than people that I know in my life that grew up with me. You know what I'm saying? So to me, I was hurt because I sacrificed my personhood. I sacrificed having a social life to be here. And I was angry that this person didn't receive me. Then the second thing I had to recognize was, while God working on me on my thing, God is also working on that person as well. And that person has a journey, and he put that person in that position to teach them something for a reason. And perhaps this is the part we don't like, perhaps you were put in that position to help that person, but we don't want to do that. And that was one thing I learned. I did this program called Advanced Leadership Intensive, and it blessed me because one of the lessons, they talked about a story about a church where they needed a pastor. All these people were lined up, and this newbie that was 30 years old came in, and because nobody wanted the church, took it over. Still the pastor of the church 30 years later, and took that church, made this broke church into a mega church. And that story blessed me because it reminded me of the story of David. Like, this is a young kid, someone that you assume because they're young that they're not able to accomplish the big goal or the task. You just write them off because they're young. And that's something that I've experienced because of my life. I've had to be mature, more mature than my age. But because of how I look, when I look younger than I am, they go. But
Okay.
on top of that, I still am genuinely young on top of that. So it's like a lot of seasoned professionals will see me and not respect me or think that I don't have the adequate knowledge or the adequate experience to do the task, or I could teach them a thing or two. They don't believe that's possible. But yeah, I feel like now I went on a whole tangent.
No, you know, it's all good.
But bring it back.
Is what we're here for. The road to resilience can really be rough. And you spoke about a lot of stuff that you deal with from people who are senior, who are seasoned, if you will. How do you deal with people or younger adults that you see that mirror where you used to be, but you see so much potential in them? How do you approach it?
When you say young adults mirror where I used to be, what do you mean by
Yeah,
that?
just meaning where you once were, where you started. You know, you aren't the same person you used to be. And so when you see somebody, you say, "Oh, you got potential."
Mm-hmm.
You're recognizing something in you. Now, I don't use those words because I feel like in about 5 minutes, you can become your potential.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like to use those words, "Oh, you got potential to do anything." You are who you say you are, and you become who you want to be. And
Mm-hmm.
so I don't say, "Oh, you got potential for anything." I say, your future is 2 minutes from now. Your future is 5 minutes from now. Your future is an hour from now, a day from now. So I don't speak to, "Oh, you got potential." No, you can become your potential in 2 minutes if you do the work, if you pray about it.
Right. I, yeah, I don't really like the potential word anymore. I don't even think I operate in potential anymore. It's more of like, okay, what is it that you want? Tell me. Okay, what do we need to do? Or what do you need? How can I support you to get to what you want? That's usually like the type of conversations that I have. I'm not really into the word potential. Now that's bad because in personal life, I probably do focus on potential a little too much. But when it comes to work professionally to help people meet tasks, especially kids, they're all kids. They all got potential. So I don't really need to say that. They don't know how to tap into it. So I'm always focused on the how. How can I take what you're already good at, what you're already interested in, and let's take it to a place where you feel like you could make money, even if you may not end up liking it, but I want you to feel it, taste it, and experience it so you know for a fact. Miss, I wanted to be a police officer, but after college and career week and going to the precinct and the police officer told me what they do, I don't want to do that. I want to do gaming instead. I'm okay with that. And I think a lot of especially adults, are not okay with children changing their mind. You know, I remember I had a family session one time and the mom was not, the daughter, the mom was like, oh, she said she wanted to do, I forgot what it was, swimming or something, extracurricular. And the daughter was like, I did want to do it, but then I don't like it anymore. I want to do this. And the mom was angry. And, you know, I paid this money and, you know, she needs to finish things that she starts. And it's like, I get what you're saying. You're right. She does need to finish things that she starts. But when you were 13, did you not change your mind? Is it impossible or irrational to believe that a 13-year-old genuinely tried something and realized, I don't like it? Is it possible? Because sometimes kids are being honest and adults tell them to stop lying. What do you do with that? I'm telling you the truth and you don't believe me. What can I do about that? So I'm very big on not only supporting them through that, but also being the bridge. Who do I need a bridge? Is it auntie? Is it grandma? Is it mom? Who do I need to communicate with on your behalf in their language to help you get to where you need to be? But then at the same time, it's about accountability. Because in that, I'm saying, if you really want this, this is the time period you have to be committed to it. If you want to try something, you have to at least try it for 21 days straight, because that's how you develop a habit. That's when you will really get to see what it is. And I lay out the expectations from the beginning. And I think oftentimes we feel when we're mentoring young people or anybody coaching, if you do not outline the expectations to mentally prepare them, then it could backfire. It could go anyway. But what helps me in my practice, I lay the expectations out early. And when you come, you want to book me for a session, I'm gonna let you know, look, I'm one of them therapists, I'm gonna give you homework. I need you to do your homework. Two, I'm gonna cut you off because you only got an hour and we gotta get to the nitty-gritty and you can't be rambling because I need to get to the point. So don't be offended. Mama, I know it's a family session and you the queen bee, but in this session, I'm the queen. And sometimes you're gonna be wrong. And I'm gonna have to, stick up for them. I just let it be known so that when it happens, it's not a big offense, it's not a big hurt. It's like, oh, she did mention this could happen, and then I support you through it when it does happen, but I'm gonna still hold you accountable. And that's what it is. It's just holding each other accountable with love. And I feel like the parents of our generation, why mental health is such a big issue now, is they didn't know how to communicate that to us in a loving way. It just was harsh. And then the natural pressure to want to impress and want to make your parents proud, it just added it on top. And now these kids is just like, I don't care. Why I gotta make you proud for? They don't have that drive and motivation, and it makes sense because they're not as connected anymore to the history that we know and we've witnessed. They didn't live through it. So for them, the disconnect is genuine. They woke up when they was born, a tablet was in their hand. When we was born, that didn't exist.
Yeah, yeah. And it happens often. I mean, we've seen different generations go through different cycles. So, you just got to take time to understand that. I want to take some time to drive into your professional trauma completely. What is your professional trauma? I want you to identify that and what people can recognize in their profession as a trauma based on what you're going through or what you went through. Yeah.
So my professional trauma story is really and truly losing myself in my work. Like I said earlier, basically idolizing my position. And when I say idolizing my position, and I want to be clear, because when people say, oh, you ain't taking, you should have took care of yourself. Why you ain't eat? Why you ain't do your, when you are working, and when I mean the type of work, I'm not in a classroom. So what that means is like a crisis could be taking place. And where I work, a crisis is anything that the teacher believes that they cannot handle. That's what they consider crisis. I mean, that don't necessarily mean it's authentically a crisis. But the fact that they called and said that, I have to show up. So now whatever I have planned on my agenda was constantly just ignored, to the point that I would just come to work waiting what's going to happen. And it was just so many things that I witnessed that was just heartbreaking. My first month working. So like, let me give you backstory. So this job was so important to me because I was an educator for 7 years. While I was an educator, I recognized that my students needed additional support outside of school based off of their issues, because I was always the type of teacher, I want to know what's going on with you. Let's talk. I was doing restorative circles before I knew that that was a term in my classroom. And so once I started getting to know my students and hearing their stories, I realized like, oh, okay, y'all really don't have anybody to talk to about these things. And they were having these things on the brain while they were in class, while they were not focusing. And in my class, I told reading, I'm gonna call on you whether you raise your hand or not. I need to make sure you're with me, you're learning. So that's how people would get outed. And I would have to speak to them after class, and it would start like that. And you got one kid is like, oh, my dad passed away, and he's the one that kept me motivated in school. He passed away last year. Like, dang. You know, you got the other kid, like, I was diagnosed with dyslexia. I feel I'm never going to learn how to read. And it's just, when you start hearing who they are, it's like, okay, I get it. I can't ignore who they are if I want to actually reach them. So going into elementary, I wanted to be a social worker. I didn't want to be a teacher anymore. And that's just the opportunity that I received. So going from a high school setting, teaching high school kids how to read. High school kids coming to high school not knowing how to read, 9th, 10th, 11th grade. That's what my job was. And then going into elementary school as a social worker 6 years later, and seeing what I saw, kids fighting every day, nobody trying to break them up. Like, my first month was literally pulling kids apart. Like, my body was so sore, because that's just how they felt. Like, if you hit me, I'm gonna hit you back, period. Point blank. I don't need to say nothing, miss. They should have never. And it could have been like, I stepped on your shoe by accident, and it would turn into a whole brawl. It hurt to like call, talk to teachers and they're just nonchalant attitudes. Oh, their parents don't care about them. They don't care if they, and it wasn't true. You didn't call. So now I'm calling like, hey, I'm the new social worker. How are you? Did you tell your child they could hit children? I'm having these weird conversations, and I'm in the project. So you can't say you a social worker and calling parents in the projects. So I was very intentional about my relationship building, because I didn't want anyone to feel like I was an enemy or that I was coming after their children. So I personally made these calls. And parents would be like, oh, I only told them to do that because their teacher was not doing anything. And I'm not going to finna have my child get bullied or beat up on. Heard you. I'm here now though, so you don't gotta worry. Literally every time, and then I had an assembly, and I said, let's talk about safe spaces. Do you feel safe at this school? And they were saying no. And they started to tell me why. And this is recess. Because the way they recess was, it was too much for me. Y'all gonna have a seat and we're gonna have a conversation, because this is not okay. So in the midst of doing all of that, so that's kind of why I ended up working outside of my work hours, because there was so much to clean up, in my opinion. And I felt like at the time, my boss was so supportive. She was very excited. And, like, at the time, she was acting leader. And it's a lot to inherit a school with all of these issues and feeling like you don't have someone to like talk to and help you through that process. And for her, I believe I was that person. But to be honest, I didn't really know her though. And I think that's what blindsided me. I didn't know her. I only knew how she was treating me. And so there was moments where people had shared with me that they were written up because of the email I sent, not knowing that that was going to happen at the result of the email. That wasn't something that was brought to my attention, but that's how people felt based off of the way they were communicated with. I was never communicated with in that manner, so I wouldn't know. So that was part of it. Then it got to the point where like I had to wear too many hats and I didn't think it was fair. I showed too much of what I could do too early. And that was a big lesson that I've learned now. I try to hold back my goodies because now you were once an educator, but now I'm a social worker. And when I was an educator, I was a master teacher, I was an instructional coach. I was thriving as a teacher. Don't get me wrong. No, they didn't want me to leave, but I didn't like teaching. I wanted to do more social work things. And that's what it was. In the school I was at, the principal denied my application to the social work position within the network because we had to get permission from our principal to transfer to a new position within the network. And she blocked me because she was more concerned about her reading level scores and wanted me to stay in that spot, as opposed to supporting me moving forward. And don't force me to stay small. That's like my biggest turn off with anybody, man, woman. Don't try to keep me in a little box because now you've burnt a bridge, because that's messed up. When you try to hold your own people down to benefit you when they're trying to elevate and you know they're ready for elevation. I don't like that. So with that case, that's what rubbed me the wrong way. The following school year, I was looking because I graduated and that's why I got where I got. And I prayed on it and I don't regret working there. But I guess that was the lesson. I was going to say I regret how I handled myself, but that was what I need. I think that's what God needed to work out of me. You're a people pleaser. That's really what it is. And when I came into that space, I was just, yes, oh, I could do this. I could go in and observe teacher. I could do lit notes. I could do this. But lit notes is coaching. I'm not a coach here. I'm a social worker. And then also the part of the problem was the person that was my boss didn't really know what my role was. And in my field, in the school system, social workers are still new. And I could ask you, when you were in school, did you have a school social worker in your school that you were aware existed? Exactly, me neither. Me neither. So now you're asking me to be something that I've never seen before. And you have expectations of what you think it should be. And then I have my degree and my experience that tells me what it should be. And now we're starting to bump. And then the last part of it that made it so hard, what made it difficult was the hats. The straw that broke the camel back for me was after we returned from COVID and we lost our parent coordinator. And now parent coordinator duties were starting to fall on my plate. Now I'm a team player. I don't have a problem helping out the team, but the thing is, when you are technically the dean, when you are technically school safety, you're technically acting like an AP, you have all these other hats that you're doing, and then you have the audacity to try to tell me, oh, I need you to do this too. I think that's where I drew the line, because I'm trying to tell you I can't handle it and you're still forcing it on me. And then now it's causing a distraction from the other things and I'm trying to get it done. And I made a mistake. I made a mistake one day. I made a flyer and the flyer had a watermark on it. I printed everything out, but the thing that got me upset, I sent her everything in advance to approve and she didn't. And I'm very big about the family. My nonprofit is about breaking generational cycles. And if a child is being honored for academic excellence, I want to give the parent at least 2 to 3 weeks notice so that if they want to be present, they can work it out with their job to be present for their kid. Anything less than that, it's like you can expect the parent to be present if you're not giving them notice. So when she didn't respond, I moved forward to send out the stuff, and she got mad about it and said that, she didn't like the watermark or whatever. And so like I'm not gonna lie, I acted out of character. I got upset. I walked out. I went to my office. I broke down and cried. I don't even remember. I can't tell you what I said. I probably said something inappropriate, but she didn't take it bad because she came after me later. But that was the point where like I can't. Now I'm looking at you different. And then it was another incident that took place where the kids were like doing drugs, and she happened to not be there, and I had came in 30 minutes later than I'm normally scheduled. But the night before, I was in the building till like 7 o'clock at night. So when you're no longer in the classroom and I'm looking around at people that are not in the classroom, they come in however they come in. It's not like they come in super late, but school starts at 8:10, and if you come in a little later, it's not a big deal. Like you're out of it's not like you got a class that's waiting for you. Because in high school, I was a high school teacher, and that's what it was. First period, you needed to be there because there's children waiting for you, but that's not the case. And so I came in a little late the next day, and during the morning, I guess, transition, there was like a fight or something. So she called me wherever she was at. She wasn't at work that week, to ask me about it. And I'm telling her, I don't know. I came in around this time, and I was like, oh, I got spoken to in a nasty manner, like, oh, you need to be coming on time because I'm gonna start writing people up. And I'm not saying that I shouldn't be held accountable, because I'm not excusing coming to work late or anything. But I felt like you're calling me after work hours to ask me about something that happened at work, and
Right.
I'm sharing it to you on this, and then now you want to try to reprimand me on the phone call about that? No, now we no longer talk outside of work, dude. So the next school year, I started pulling up boundaries, because that year was the first year that I had my first mental breakdown. And I was in a mental breakdown. I was in crisis and didn't know I was in crisis, because I did my photo shoot in January. So I already lost a lot of weight from that January. And then we started teetering into March. That's when it started to become more evident, because I didn't have no clothes that fit. And now the weather is starting to get warmer, so you don't have, like, that big coat covering you. You're starting to see my shape or whatever, and now you just see me in these big clothes. So then I had to start buying clothes slowly, because none of the clothes I had to fit. So that's when my coworkers started to notice it, but nothing really changed. Like, people would make side comments, but nothing changed. And then I went to the doctor. Why did I go to the doctor? There was something happened. I was nervous about my own weight, and I just didn't have no appetite. I didn't want to eat. All I could do was cry and go to sleep. After work, that's it. If I felt the energy to cry, but I just didn't feel the need to eat. So I was like, let me go. I don't know if I got an eating disorder. I don't know. Let me go to the doctor. And I went to the doctor, and she was just like, the year before, which wasn't even the year I'm talking about, 2021, she's like, you came and you were expressing how you were stressed out about work. And now it's a year later, and she's like, you lost 50 pounds. She was
Wow.
just like, you're too stressed. That's what she thought. I'm putting you on a leave 2 weeks, period. That's when I learned of what a mental health leave is. I never even knew that was a thing. And it was traumatizing, because that week, the next week was college and career week, like the third one. And like that, I started that. Like, my principal wanted me to do it, but it started with me, essentially. Even though I set everything up, it was just like, wait, you want me to be off now? But it was also the same time that I had my nonprofit camp that was supposed to come up. And honestly, I was thinking about canceling it. So this is how God works. I wanted to cancel it because I was like, I got too much going on. This lady bugging. I just didn't want to deal with it. So she was like, take this 2 weeks to rest, recoup, whatever. And so I hit somebody in the district up. I was like, yo, this is what my doctor said. What you think? She's like, do what the doctor says. Like, duh.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay. I hit my boss up. You know what my boss said? She said, oh, your emails have been, I figured it was going to happen because your emails just have been very snappy and sharp lately. And da 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 da. I'm like, okay. Well, I sent her a 5-page email on all the logistics for the entire week. The next day. And then I heard through the grapevine, that I make friends wherever I go, that talk was happening about me during the week, because people were trying to question whether I was capable of doing my job. And comments were made that, oh, she's doing podcasting, she's doing modeling. Maybe if she could focus on her job, then she wouldn't be stressed out. So, people was hitting me up like, girl, you need to come out to work. Like, don't, because I was contemplating, because she was putting in my head, maybe you should take the rest of the school year off. And that was hurtful to me because the best part of the school year is June. Why? When you work with kids, the end of the school year is where you get to see their growth. You get this graduation season. You actually get to see the fruit of the labor you've been putting in. So this is to me, is the best time of year to be out work, right? So for you to be suggesting that I take off the rest of the school year already, like I was feeling a way about it, but then when I heard it from outsiders, different. Then when I came back to work after that leave, the staff saw me in a whole new light. Like when I tell you, the staff in the building were so nasty to me prior to that, when I came back, the amount of people that came to check in on me, the amount of people that was just like, oh, I see you. Oh, like, I get it. It was different. And that was when that day I came back, it was like the senior breakfast or something like that, our fifth graders. And those fifth graders were in, I believe, third grade when I started working at the school. And the parents were sharing like their fondest memories at the school. And when I sat there and I heard, like one parent was like, oh, when my son did student government, that was amazing. And you had another, like they were just naming little things. And all the things they named were things that I started at the school or coordinated at the school. I should say executed. So then it started to hit me like what we talked about earlier, like you started off as a mentor relationship and then realize, oh, it's a competition because now this is your school, but what is your imprint that you left on these children?
Impact.
What's that? Right. What is your impact that you left? And I think it might have hit her harder personally on her own because she didn't say that to me. This is straight speculation off of my own personal observation and my experience and me trying to be kind and understanding of a perspective. That's what that is.
Yeah.
I don't know because this was never said to me directly, but this is what the behaviors demonstrated to me. So after that, it was fine. We go to the new year, and now we are in year 3. My boundaries are finally being respected. And when I mean year 3 of the breakdown. So I've had 3 mental breakdowns consecutively. So after that 2 weeks, the next year I had a week mental health leave. Because it was starting to get too much. I went to the doctor and now I notice it's a pattern. My weight goes down around February, March-ish, and that's around the time where it's like you need a break. And I had to start taking accountability, like you need a break, Simone. It's okay that you need a break. And you do way more than an average person that would be in this position. And it's being spoken to and told to me as if I'm supposed to do it. Just because I can and I have the capacity and I'm good at it doesn't mean I am obligated to do it. And that's the energy. And one of my biggest pet peeves as a leader in any space, don't ask me to do something that you can't do yourself. That's just how I feel. That's just how I feel. Unless you're saying like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to do this. This is a strength you have. Would you be willing? That's different because you're already letting me know from jump, like, sis, this is not my area. You are fire. But that would be like encouraging another person. And I feel like that's not there. That's not there. And when I get encouragement, it comes with, I feel like not a stigma, but there's something attached to it. You want something in return. There's a benefit in it for you while you're giving it to me. And so working in this job also taught me to have relationships with people that are going to benefit me. I can't just do something for you out the goodness of my heart. Now I have to think about, oh, if I do this for you, what am I going to get out of it?
Yeah.
So that's kind of like the gist. I could go deep into stories upon stories upon stories to break it down. But I think that the main part of the trauma is I've never had a mental breakdown in any other school I worked at, in any other industry. Well, I always was in education or social work, but in any agency, nonprofit, and I've worked for AmeriCorps. Like I've always worked in tough spaces.
Yeah, yeah.
This is the worst space that I've worked at, and this is the first time I've had mental breakdown, to the point that I'm not gonna lie, low key, I don't feel as I'm low key afraid to take risks anymore,
Yeah, yeah.
because I feel like, yo, am I gonna have a meltdown? Am I gonna be like one of those crazy people that's like they can't handle anything? Because this is the narrative that is like kind of being forced, and then the politics of working in the system. The politics of, oh, I know you being abused, but I need you to get this tenure. I need you to stick it out. Oh, I know this is happening to you, but I need you to be strong, just be quiet, do what's said, and then you're gonna get your tenure. As soon as you get your tenure, then this.
Is your goals and experience pushing you toward the exit, or do you feel like it's like, you know what, I need to do this. This is bigger than me, and the kids will benefit.
That's a
With
great question.
investment,
That's a
right?
great question. Yeah, it's a conflict. Um, I definitely was feeling like starting my doctorate program and just learning more about the education system, looking at doing a policy analysis, and that hurt me even more. That was this year. That's the real trauma, because I did so many things that I didn't know why I was doing it. I thought I was just doing it to prove myself to my boss, but it was actually used to submit to the state as far as what the curriculum and the expectation was. I didn't know until I took this class in my doctorate program and recognized, wait, what? Oh, that's what I did. But the fact that the school's consolidated plan, if you're in that system, they know what that is. My name is everywhere on everything. Most of the time it's the principal and a variety of the people that are running. Like if you run the crisis team and I run, ACS or whatever, I'm the ACS liaison, that makes sense. I'm a social worker. Maybe you're the dean, so you run crisis. So both of our names would be under those, in those separate areas. That's how it should be. But at
Yeah.
our school, we're so short-staffed that I think that she ain't know who to put, because people don't really commit to anything. They don't want to do more. Usually when you don't have nobody, the principal puts their name in place. That's what I was told.
Yeah.
But her name is not on the plan. It's only on the front page, like maybe as the principal, but when it says who's the building response team leader, my name is there. Who's the crisis team leader, my name is there. Who's the, this leader, my name's there. Who's this leader, my name's there. It's just like the only place my name was not at is if it was a job that literally was attached to a different job. So if it had something to do with parents or parent engagement, that obviously goes to the parent coordinator.
Yeah.
Um, but if it was something that was nuanced that any staff member could do, as long as they volunteered or stepped up, my name was there. And I didn't know. Another person had to inform me, like, yo, your name is on everything. And then I finally got the printout of it, gave it to me. And I was told that I needed to write in certain things on this plan. Why am I doing it? I'm not the principal. And then I found out later, oh, that it's supposed to be a community project. Parents, staff, even students, if you want, stakeholders, or to come together to work on this plan together. But that wasn't my experience at all. It was
Now, I,
good.
I want to stay with okay. Um, you're a woman of wisdom, and for some, faith would have it that that would lead you down a whole nother path. You switch um occupations, if you will, a couple of times. And now it seems like you're on a principal track. You
I
know,
was on a principal track.
no, I'm saying to me, it sounds like you're on a principal track when you're doing things as, something that principals do. Like you said, principals is doing this. I'm not the principal, but because your name is on it, does it hint at the fact that maybe you're on a journey to become a principal?
I mean, that's probably God. That could be God's plan. The funny thing about it, that was my initial goal when I went to the school system. I didn't go in with the intention of being a teacher. I never wanted to be a teacher. I really wanted to be a principal, but I was told back then, like, you can't be a principal without being a teacher. And then when I got into school teaching, I didn't really meet a principal that made me feel inspired to become one. They made me feel the opposite. In this case, it's hard, that conflict. I do feel like, oh, I have a responsibility to stay and to make a change. But then can I make that change while do I have to make that change while also being abused at the same time? What's because if I sacrifice myself in this mistreatment to save someone and then I end up dying, jumping out the window, because I said that to my dad one day. I was so upset. I literally wanted to jump out my office window. And I don't got no rails in my school, which is crazy because it's elementary school. It was no rails, there's no rails on my window. So I could just boop. And what stopped me was I don't want my children to see that. I do not want my students to have that visual in their mind. That's what stopped me. So to get to a level, and I had to, and the thing is, when you're smart, when you're educated, when people see you as strong, they invalidate what you're going through. If I could say somebody was mistreating me, it's just like, oh, whatever, you'll be fine. No, but you don't know the impact of what I'm experiencing. And now that added, that's like a compounded effect. And now I'm having suicidal ideations as a result of it. And I don't have nobody to talk to because nobody cares about what I'm going through as long as I can benefit them. And that's where I had to learn, stop people pleasing, because people don't give a flying flip about you when it comes down to it. Let the people that love you be be attracted to you for you. You don't have to have no gimmick, nothing. That's why I appreciate you, because I feel like you're like one of the first people that I met that didn't ask me for nothing, that didn't try to hit on me, that didn't try to like get money from me, that didn't try to like use me in some kind of way. And I don't think that all those people are trying to use me, but it's like you're trying to get a benefit from me without expecting you having to do something for me in return. There's no reciprocity. And that drives me insane because I don't do things for reciprocity. But after a while, when you supporting other folks and when you get to a hard place, ain't nobody around and it's just callous comments. No, I do deserve better than that. And I don't need to. And a lot of them people, my pastor said to me one day that really hit me because it was coming from him. He was like, some people in the position that they in because of them. It's something that's in them that they refuse and they're resistant about. And I was like, wow, that's deep. And one of my other friends was like, you don't want to enable people because you could be stopping them from learning the lesson that God is trying to teach them. And I
Yeah,
would be like, dang,
yeah,
you absolutely right. They need to struggle. They need to build faith. They need to build whatever it is they need to build. God's working on them. And you coming in as being Captain Saver person all the time, they never learned what they needed to learn because they didn't really fall. So all of those things I had to like start to process and start to think about, okay, what does that mean for me? Even to this day, I have to stop and be like, what do you want? Is this what you want to do? Is it? And if not, how you gonna navigate that?
you definitely got to lean in. Man. You shared so much. Your story is so resilient, and there's layers upon layers upon layers. And if people really just listen to this, they'll get a clear understanding of, what is happening in so many areas of life, so many professions, so many different things are happening, and not everybody is diagnosed or understand what they're dealing with and naming it. Nobody's calling it out. So I want to say thank you for your resilience and for your sacrifice and for your sanity. It takes a certain amount of sanity to be who you need to be. And people talk about the resilience and the prosperity, but nobody talks about the peace, the peace that you have to find within. So I want to give you your flowers now, just to tell you how resilient you are, how brilliant you are, and how you can dive into your brilliance. Because some of the things that people don't talk about is how we know Einstein and we know all these different thought leaders and people that are just they're brilliant beyond measure, but
Mhm.
where they have to be in their mind to think outside the box, to be 30 steps, 50 steps ahead to deal with the nature of society, and outline that, and to be who they need to be for society, and to deliver what God has called them to deliver. So salute to you on that. Where are you now, and what is next in your process, for you, for Rhyme, um, and for your professional career?
Yeah, I love that. So for rhyme specifically, I'm currently pursuing my doctorate so that I can do a program evaluation so that it can be an evidence-based program. With that, it being evidence-based, that opens the doors for me to have more grant funding. That's where I need. Rhyme is growing in the sense that the word is getting out and more people want me to do rhyme camps, but I don't have the capacity. I don't have a staff, a consistent staff, the supplies. Like our current youth camp, I might have to cancel it or makeshift it because we don't have the funding, honestly. And I have to take a hiatus to focus on grant funding. So doing my doctorate is gonna kind of help um, make that process happen a little smoother. As far as the education system, like my goal is to eventually leave. If I could leave next year, that would be great. But unfortunately, the system does what it does. And that pay, that once you put in those years and that time in a specific place, you're gonna have to start over somewhere else. And I'm no longer, I've already started over many times, like you mentioned, not many, but a couple of times. So I'm no longer in a position to start over. So I am going to be in the school system a little while longer, at least until I finish my doctorate degree. But I really want to speak. I want to travel and do workshops wherever I can. That's really what my heartbeat is right now, and just continue to use my voice and my testimony to just bring light to people, really and truly creating safe spaces for trauma storytelling. I want to know your hurt. I want to know your pain. I want to know, what you went through, because all of that has implications to who we are now and the decisions that we make and the goals that we have. And my biggest goal right now down the line, low key, I want to dismantle the school system. Oh my goodness, that's what my spirit told me. I don't know what that looks like or how that would be, but I definitely want to make a change
Yeah.
within that school system, because the way it's operating now, unfortunately, in my experience, because other people have positive experience and they try to encourage me all the time. But in my experience in the places I've been, it feels like it's doing more harm than it is good. And that's a problem for me. And then it's hard because parents that are not active feel like, oh, we can't break the school system down and stuff. Like, I'm not gonna have, and I was like, the school system is not a babysitting club. Like, if your kid comes to school for several years, if they're in third grade and they don't know how to read, as a parent, wouldn't that concern you? So that's the part that I'm like, the parents that are for the school or whatever, that's the part I'm confused. If your baby can't read, how can you say their teachers, you love them? I was like, no, I don't love that teacher, because how could that teacher have your kid for 3 years consecutively and your kid still can't read? Does she really love you or not? Does she really care about your kid or not? And these are, and it pains me. I didn't go to no HBCU or whatever the case may be, but I majored in psychology but minored in English and Africana studies. So I'm very woke to a certain extent. And for me to have Black and brown children every day and you not teaching them how to read and let them leave elementary school not knowing how to read, now I understood how I got kids in high school, even though I'm still confused because middle school, that's another story. But now I understood how I had kids that didn't know how to read when I now am coming to an elementary and I'm like, this isn't an elementary school. This is what happens down here. I feel like I'm in a high school.
Sure.
They're doing the same thing. So that's where I really want to try to figure out, either if I leave and I contract with the DOE a year and a day later, or if I just stay there but work my way up to citywide level where decisions are made, where trainings are made. I would like to see the way they want to coach. Some places coach teachers. I would love to coach social workers. A lot of social workers are not equipped for the role because I have a specific skill set that's different. I was a teacher in the classroom.
And gift.
Yeah, the gift part comes with it. That helps me, that graces me to do the job, definitely. But I do still have the legitimate skills and experience. I was a family therapist in an actual agency for 3 years.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I was an educator for 7 years. So now I'm a social worker. I know how to navigate and marry the two together really well. Whereas the social worker that didn't have the education experience is lost. And then the educator that never seen a social worker in a school is confused. Like, man, why do I care about checking my students' feelings when they walk in? My job is to teach. Like, so it really was hard. But I could say that I did a lot of great work, and I'm proud of my portfolio, and I know that that's something that I could use as a foundation to show, like, this is what I can do. Let me help you save your school. That's really what I really wanted to do, save schools back in the day. I want to be a fixer, but for school. I'll be Olivia Pope, but for schools.
Okay.
Hit me up. What's your problem? I'm gonna fix it. What we got going on?
It sounds like you are birthing some conferences, some summits as well. There's some things that you're adding to your coach portfolio as I hear it. And so I'm excited to hear that. And I want to say that you are a disruptor, you are a thought leader. Even before you finish, you know, at this next level, you ought to know that you are a disruptor and a thought leader. And a lot of times it takes for you to be a disruptor and a thought leader for you to maximize the things around you and elevate all things. It's like, planting that seed. Ultimately, you may have to be a disruptor. Sometimes you got to go against the grain to get it to go with the grain. Amen. So I think that's dope. And you're sitting on that. So that's extremely fire. I want to take some time out for you to speak to a resilient young mind, maybe one like yourself or one that doesn't mirror exactly who you are, but um, want some of the same things, or if not, want to turn down another path, but feel like their struggles, the things that they're going to have to deal with, their sacrifices may look the same. What do you say?
You want me to give advice to a
Whatever you
resilient
want.
young mind?
Whatever
That's
you
what you're saying. Copy. Mm. Take the time to learn who you are. That's something that I wish someone told me or taught me when I was younger. Just take the time to learn who you are, and who you are is enough. That's the misconception. Who you are is enough. And if you take the time to figure out who you are, what you like, what you dislike, what your parents taught you that you really don't believe in, what your parents taught you that you know you want to hold on to, all of those things is figuring out who you are, testing and seeing what you like, because that will help build your confidence and strengthen your no's when you need to say no. It will make your yeses more clear because you'll be more clear about what you want. Because if it doesn't align with your identity, then you'll know that, oh, this is not right for me. But if you are lost and you have no identity, then life becomes more difficult, and you fall into that, people pleasing cycle that you're not even aware exists. So just get to know yourself. What does that mean? Not in relationship with another person, not, like literally standing up for yourself and being independent on your own. I'm very proud of the fact that I'm still young. I went to school like that. I followed the steps. You don't celebrate each other enough when we do that. Everybody I know, they got pregnant at 15, 16, 17, 18, whatever. They started school, they had to stop, then they went back, and and there's nothing wrong with that because everybody's journey is their journey. But I think the people that went straight and just tried to stay on track the whole time, we don't normally get spoken about or recognized. And I think that's why people feel the pressure to want to jump into a relationship or jump into things that they don't necessarily want to do. But it's like, I need a win. I need this recognition. I need to say I have this thing. And I don't know why I'm so different because like my mind genuinely doesn't go that way, but I don't feel like I feel like I'm doing what I was supposed to do. And I feel like I still am young and I got plenty of time to do even more things. And also like it's when you're being you and you understand your purpose, when you figure out who you are and all that stuff, I had to recognize that if I was on the tip of what my parents or what my like church mentors or whatever were trying to pour into me, perhaps I would not have been capable of accomplishing the things that I accomplished. Because I say that all the time, like even my like friends that are married, I be like, I don't know how you do it. Like I couldn't. Like you got too many things going on. And for me, what helps me is not having no kids, not having no husband, not having any of these things to distract me or pull me away from my work. If I had those things, I know for a fact I wouldn't be working all the time. That's just what it is. So you got to take I don't want to say good with the bad, but you have to take what you want and for what it is and what it requires. And some people don't want to do that. Oh, I want to be a millionaire, but I also want to be off 7 days. That those two they don't go together at all. So once you get to know yourself, you feel confident in every move that you make, and it comes with confidence. And that's what I would tell a resilient person to do.
You are looking at a blueprint of resilience, people. And so I just want you to continue to look her up and look at what she's doing, how she's literally molding the minds of young minds, but also just minds in general. Resilient is as resilient does. And so if they can just go back and just rewind this podcast or go back and listen to some of the gems that have come through this entire podcast and understand the R stories is literally telling the story of natural superheroes, like people who are doing things real time with real resilience. So hats off to you. I thank you for that. I want to give you some time to share where people can find you, what they can do to tap into what it is that you're doing, how they can donate, how they can be a part. Um, and just to continue to keep up with what you're doing and to donate time, money, experience to your platform.
Well, you can follow us at RYM_INC for all things rhyme. We do have a youth resilience camp coming up this July. And we also have our gala coming up that I'm excited about. And it's our I'm So Resilient Gala. You can find us on Eventbrite. If you type in Rhyme Gala 2024, it's easy to find. Get your tickets. It's June 7th. What else? I have so many things going on. I'm trying to keep up. um, I will be going to Hollywood again in October for LA Fashion Week. I was selected to walk there, so tickets on sale. They're virtual tickets as well, so you don't have to go all the way to Cali to get you your virtual ticket on Zoom and pull up, eat your popcorn, and watch the show. You can follow me on my personal page at poetic_J21. That's where you're going to see all things the ultimate social worker. You might see sessions that I do. You're going to see everything just comes into a clash there. And then lastly, our stories made an Instagram page, finally.
Nelly.
So you definitely want to follow the Instagram, the R Stories Instagram page is at R Stories Pod, Pod at the end. On Instagram, like, follow, and tap in and keep in contact if you are looking for a therapist for your child or for your family. Definitely feel free to DM me and we will set up a free consultation so that we can get that going.
Wow. So much to share, so much to take in, so much to receive. And I received that. I received that as well. I want to thank you for allowing me to sit in your seat
Yeah.
without understanding completely what your seat felt like. And I still don't know because what you have experienced, I have not experienced some of it I have, but I would never know what it's like to be Simone. So I
Mm,
want to thank you for giving me time to actually sit in your seat and feel from your seat.
mm.
Um, it was remarkable just sitting here, just taking it all in and to be able to learn real time. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to pray us out because, we've had some great convo. Some of these things that you said, I'm going to have to go back and listen to because just like that, you can be so rich and the wealth is in just all that's being said. Just the content is so rich and so wealthy. So
Mhm.
almost feel like this particular episode can be used for your dissertation. Uh,
I love, right? I'm
mhm,
trying to figure it out. It's so many things that I could use. I'm learning for my dissertation. But mine is not even a dissertation, it's an advanced practice project. So it's a little more trickier than if you were getting like a PhD, which is more of a philosophical degree.
yeah.
But I agree with you. Thank you for taking the time to interview me. I appreciate it. I don't think anybody else could have done a better job. And I hope that I'm gonna see you this season as well, because I know you got a professional resilience story. You kind of already shared a professional resilience story, but I feel like it's still loading. Like the fullness of it is still loading. And so it's just an honor to have a previous guest be a host. And I didn't think that you were the best person for the job. It was dope. You was asking some real questions. I was like, oh, okay, okay, let me think.
Oh,
So
that's
thank you for that.
sure. It's my pleasure. Let's go ahead and jump into some prayer. Father God, I want to thank you for Simone's life, and what it is that she's been through. Help her to understand that her sacrifices do not go in vain, and what she's doing, what she will do, what she has done is all a part of your plan, all a part of your prosperity, and a part of your ascending plan to take her higher, to pull her back like a slingshot and continue to help her to exalt forward, Father. And so I thank you for what it is that you're doing in her. I thank you for the brilliance. I thank you for the powerful mind, the wisdom, the acumen that comes along with who she is and what she has planned. And, the people that she's accompanied by, the team that she's building. It takes a powerful person to be able to sit in the seat, to stand in the stance, to be in a posture in which she is. And so, Father, I want to thank you. I want to thank you for just what you're doing in her, through her. I'm asking that you will help her to propel and rise to the occasion, Father. I'm asking that you will help her to understand the doors that you did close, the things that you've allowed to happen, the things that you've shown her are a part of her story for a reason. And that you will continue to build resilience real time in her with the things that you're doing. And so I want to thank you for that, Father. I thank you for your strength and guidance and for all that you're doing. And I thank you for all that you are helping her to become. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
I see.
Yeah. Yeah.